Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio today, I have a dear, longtime friend. Me and this lady, we have known each other for literally 45 years, if that tells you anything. One of the oldest friends I have. And I say that proudly to know that just from so far back in childhood and over the years and the different experiences that we've had and share with one another and just, whether it's with our families or just exciting news and things of that nature, to still have a friend after all of these years, it's something very special that I don't take lightly. So she has been gracious enough, this mom, this wife, this woman of God, gracious enough to take time out of her schedule to be on the show today to just share a little bit of her journey with us, of how she's overcome some challenging and difficult times in life here and there. So, without any further delay, it is my privilege and honor to introduce to you Miss Tracy Netter. Thank you, Tracy, for being on the show today. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Joseph.
She said, "Thank you." Just be real modest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And I'm like, you're like 45 years. I'm like, now,
Yeah.
really? No.
Nah, well, I wasn't trying to put it out there like that. I'm just, just saying.
You're
It's
putting
it's
me
been
out
a
there
it's
bad.
been
Oh,
a it's
man,
been a
45
long
years.
time. It's been a
It's
long
been a long
time,
time.
long
Yeah.
time. Yes. So that's awesome. So before we get started, I do want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit with our audience about what was, a little bit about yourself. Where you're from, what do you do, that kind of thing. So, if you would, please share a little bit with the audience about yourself.
Okay. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. Woo, south side of
All
Chicago,
right.
Illinois. Specific, very specific, south side. And I've grown up in Chicago, been here all my life. I am an educator. I'm an art teacher specifically. And I know a lot of people who may think they're like an art teacher. I've been teaching now for like 27 years as an art teacher. And you don't often find that for Black women. Black women teachers are not usually the art teacher. People always think there's no art in school. I don't know where this comes from. They're like, there's no art in school. We need programs. But I've been blessed. And I did go to school for art to be an artist. And my mother and a number of people in my family were teachers. And so it was giving me a great chance to combine them together. And fun fact, when you and I were in grammar school together, one person who inspired me to actually be an art teacher is our art teacher, Miss Lips something. Oh my gosh, I
Miss
can't think of her
Ludwig.
name. Miss Ludwig. Miss Ludwig.
Yes.
Was it Miss
Yes.
Ludwig?
It was Miss Ludwig. I remember that.
Um, and I hope this doesn't go out too far. I will just say I didn't find her to be an awesome teacher. I did not, but I found art to be so interesting. And I always thought I could be an art teacher and I would be much better than this. And lo and behold, I'm an art teacher. And I think I'm a great art teacher. Let me say that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's interesting that all the way back to that time, because that was probably around, I'm gonna say maybe sixth grade, roughly, that we had her. To
Mm-hmm.
think back
Mm-hmm.
then that while she may not have been perhaps and I get what you're saying about that, she wasn't so much the most engaging or personality field teacher. It was just the subject matter you were drawn to, and I agree. I
Yes.
mean, you don't typically think about art and art teacher and it being an African American woman teaching that art class. And so I'm sure I've never obviously been in your art classes, but I've heard you speak of art and just your excitement and passion for it, to where I'm sure you make the class much more interesting than probably what it was when we had a chance to go through it. So your students are clearly
Yeah.
are blessed to have that opportunity to to be under your teaching. And as I understand it, when I was looking at your, and we'll talk about that in a, in a moment, your recent accomplishment about being acknowledged in the who's who. I think I remember from reading that write up that you teach a variety of different age levels. What is the age levels again that you're not just
Yeah. I teach pre-K through
Mhm.
eighth grade.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Is
So
there
that's a big range in a grammar school. situation.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
anybody who has children or who's had children know it's a big
Mhm.
difference between preschool and eighth grade. So I get all of that in between.
Cool. Do you have a particular age group that you find more fascinating to work with, or is it just kind of pretty much the same across the board, just different dynamics with it?
No, second grade. Second grade is the best. Second grade. And then even as a group, I would say second, third, and fourth.
Okay.
Love second, third, and fourth. But second
Okay.
grade is absolute the best for me.
What makes it
Absolute.
what second grade stands out for you? What is it about the second graders that really stick out to you?
Well, they're young enough to be super excited about like every single thing that they experience in school, but they're old enough not to just like, oh, I can't do anything, I can't even hold a brush. Like they, they're trying, they're eager, they listen, they put themselves out there, they're proud of themselves, often they're proud of their friends. I'm telling you, second grade, they are just positive. They are simply positive.
All right. All right. And I'm asking you these questions. I mean, because I'm intrigued to again find out a little bit more about just your draw to the arts. Do you have a favorite artist or a particular art type that you prefer?
My favorite artist is probably Matisse, Henri Matisse, because he not only did a lot of abstract work as well as some realistic work. Later on in life, he became ill. He was always kind of sickly, but then he became ill, and instead of like giving up, he began to draw on his wall. So he was in bed, laying in bed sick, and he put chalk on a long like stick and drew all the pictures on the wall because he couldn't get up. Like he literally couldn't get up. And then when he was able to get up a little bit better, just like sitting up in bed, he would cut and cut paper and magazine, well, not magazines then, but paper, lots of paper, colored paper. He would paint paper and then cut it. And then he had assistants who were in his room and they would uh paste these pictures all over his wall because he wanted to be out in the garden. He couldn't get there. And so he made a garden inside. And I love to cut pictures out of
Hmm.
magazines and out of books. I'm a person who likes to cut a lot and then make a picture from small, pictures that were already there. Good, nice paper, painting paper, or and make those different shapes and designs together. So we have that in common. And I didn't even know that prior to me really doing it. When I studied up on my Matisse, I was like, oh my gosh, we're the same. We're twins.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that about you. That's why I'm just curious. Just piecing that all together because I mean I've clearly known that you've always been a very creative person. So just hearing your passion and just you describe the various aspect of art that draws you in is very intriguing. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to build a
Yes.
little bit more on who you are as a person. Of course, we grew up very close around each other, within blocks of one
Hmm.
another. But again, everybody's home is different. Everybody's, individual growing up circumstances are different. So I'm curious to know from your perspective, if you would share, what was it like for you growing up? What do you remember about growing up in terms of fond memories or any challenges that you recall having to face as you were growing up in the neighborhood that we grew up in, South Side of Chicago? What do you remember about that?
Well, I always have really extremely fond memories of growing up on the south side of Chicago. I sometimes even hear people speak about the south side. I'm like, where did you grow up? Because I have not been the person to get shot or shot at. I have not been the person who was jumped into a gang or anything like that. I have such good memories of my neighbors being so loving and so warm. And even my community, we had a park around our house.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a little bit of a walk for me. I think it was closer to your home than it was to mine. But it was nothing to walk up to that park, like by
Right.
myself or, with my sister, or some neighbors or something, and have so much fun there. And just, I always love the South Side of Chicago. It's always been really good memories and good times. And I can remember on my block in particular, the neighbors were just so, it felt like a extended family. Like you could go to anybody's house. You really could. Even when, I guess, looking back, maybe some sketchy things happened. It didn't seem sketchy at the time. Like, it just, nothing, it just seemed like everything was fine. And so I remember my mother giving my sister and I a lot of leeway. We got a lot of leeway to be around the house and do things around the house. And that was outside, and that was fantastic. And inside, and I guess people would think about it being a mess, but it really wasn't a mess for us. It was, we were just being creative, and we were given that leeway, and even our neighbors were very open to that on around the block, making mud pies and all kinds of stuff in the neighborhood. We never got in trouble.
Right, right. And again, those times are just not the norm anymore. Kids being outside like they used
Hello?
to. Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Okay.
I don't know if I can hear you, Joseph. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Looks like you might. I know
Okay,
your screen. Okay, you're good. Can you hear me
it's
now?
kind of low. I'm just gonna. I hate to do this. Can I press something to see if I can make it a little bit louder?
That's fine. Go ahead and do that.
Okay. Oh no, I think I muted it.
I can still hear you. Okay, and I can turn
You
my
can hear
mic up
me?
too. Yep, I can hear you. Do I need to turn mine up a little bit more?
Um, I know this might be so inopportune. Can I step away for one moment?
Sure. Go ahead. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
You are here with the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am with my guest, Tracy Netter. We just had a momentary technical difficulty, so she's just jumping back in to get that right so we can continue with our conversation. Um, as you can hear, she's an educator. She is a art teacher, just really a creative soul. And we were just talking about how, things are so different now with kids being able to get outside like they used to, like back in the day. And so Tracy speaking to that is very
Okay.
correct. So,
Hi.
hi, you there?
Yes. I don't know
All
why
right,
it just seems so low, but
that's okay. I can get up on the mic a little bit more as well if I need to, if that'll help you.
okay. I'm just gonna listen in really, really intently.
Okay, and I'll make sure that I turn my volume up so you can hear as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, we're good. We're good. So you were, of course, like as I was just saying, just as you spoke to about being, having a lot of leeway and being outside and that opportunity to be creative. We just don't see that as much anymore like we used to, just because it's so dangerous these days, and you can't just kids just don't. And between that and just technology, kids just kind of get stuck in the house all the time, and they don't venture out anymore. So I think that sort of hinders that creativity. So knowing the line of work and education that you do for you to be in a creative subject, keep in mind stimulated, especially when you're up against the challenges of their attention span being on the internet and things like that. I think that again is a powerful thing for you to be a part of. So, and as you said, you had a wonderful childhood, and for the audience to know, like, how many siblings do you have? Of course, I know who your siblings are, but how many siblings do you have to share with the audience?
Oh wow, that's a good question. How many siblings do I have? Well, I will say I know that I have absolutely, positively four sisters, and I have a step brother.
Mm-hmm.
And as one of my older sisters always says, and a host of others. I've had, people come in and out. A host of others. I'll say that. And I get asked. I promise you, I get asked at least 3 times a month. Oh, are you so and so? You look just like my cousin. I have a sister who looks like you. You look like my aunt. I don't know if I have a very common face or if I have so many siblings out there that people are looking at them left and right.
Hey, I
But
get it.
I'll take it as as love.
Yes, yes. Of course, I'm familiar with your older one of your older sisters. Of course, I knew of you growing up in the home with, and of course, I had an opportunity to meet your mom. Obviously, lovely family. So yeah, you come from a good family. You come from good people, good upbringing, and like I said, it was one of those during those times of growing up. If there was some sketchy things going on in the neighborhood or whatever, we didn't really know a whole bunch about that. It was I guess it was controlled to a certain degree, and between that and just the boundaries that were set for us anyway, while we had some leeway, we weren't allowed to just wild out either. So we're from the age of the street light rules and all of that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
um, so that it does make a difference in that scenario. So I do want to ask you as we kind of go through this journey of what life was like for you. Of course, you've shared about what you do, you've shared about what your upbringing was like, but one of the things that we understand is that you live this life long enough, there comes a point in time when there are going to be certain things that take place in our lives that hit a little different. That when we're faced with these challenges, when we're faced with these moments, sometimes we come across something that we may question whether or not we're going to actually be able to overcome it. We're going to actually be able to make it through. And so, if you would, tell us about a time when you found yourself in a situation in life where you were faced with some adversity that you questioned. Am I going to be able to pull this off? Am I going to be able to make it through? I'm not sure. This is a little bit more than what I'm accustomed to navigating. What was that situation like for you, and how did you go about navigating your way through
Um. Wow. I have about a million of those scenarios.
it?
Um. So I'll say, even leaving, I would say leaving high school, I told my parents that I was going to be a starving artist and
Mm,
that I wasn't going to college. I was just going to pursue my art. And at that time, I'd only gone to the Art Institute for some, summer programs. It's not like I had been in art school. I had no, nothing. I'm just like, that's what I'm going to do.
mm-hmm.
What in the world is that? So then my mom was like, okay. She was like, okay. And mind you, I've never been out on the street. I've never been starving. Not a real artist. I hadn't painted anything for anybody at that point, I don't believe. So I just had this idea. And so I really did not prepare to go to school. I didn't. For like my senior year, I'm like, Psh, I'm not going to school. This is what I'm going to do. And nobody at home pressed me really hard. So then my mother's like, oh, you need to, once you get like a little job or whatever, and just, save up some money from when you out here starving. And the job was at Dunkin' Donuts downtown in Chicago. It was so tough. It was so hard. So at that point, I'm like, I don't want to starve. This is hard. This is work. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm gonna go to school. Back in the day, now I know kids are doing things a little different these days, but back in the day, if it was like February senior year and you like, oh, I'm gonna go to school now, you almost out of luck as far as going to school. Like
Right.
you just weren't gonna go. They were like, "Oh no, you've got acceptance letters and people have their financial aid." Like you just couldn't come out the blue. Like you know what, I'm gonna go to school unless you were, I'm guessing, really rich. But everybody else had acceptance, and I was just like, you know what, I changed my mind. I'm going to school. So at that point, I was stuck. Like I applied some places. They were like, thanks, no thanks. We've got our class, and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. I mean, I was so stressed. I was really so stressed. And by the grace of God, I'm gonna say luckily, by the grace of God, I end up going to the same school as my sister. She had gone on to St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina, HBCU. And we went to visit her while she was in school. And while I was there, my mom was able to talk to somebody like in admissions and was like, oh, she wants to go, blah, blah, blah. Being a small HBCU, they were like, you know what, okay, let's try this. We'll admit her in. And then I went on to school. But looking back, and always looking back, it's like, oh, it wasn't so bad. Maybe I could have got through this. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I made such an error. And my parents were like, yeah, that's what you said you were going to do. So go ahead. They were not there. They were like picking me up. So bad. So that's one it really stressed me.
And it's just so interesting to hear you say that because again, having gone to school with you for a number of years, of course, I obviously had an opportunity to know just how smart you are. I mean, for the audience needs to understand, we're not talking about Tracy, the just barely getting by in school type of person. You were academically of a high standard. Clearly, could have gone to a number of different colleges. Had some of your choices, available to you. So for you to shift gears at sort of that senior year mark and say, I just want to be a starving artist kind of thing. I mean, even if you wanted to pursue art, you could have probably gotten into a art institute of Chicago or some other university that had a high level art program and would have had a substantial great chance of actually getting accepted just because of your academic prowess coming into the situation. But then you shifted and just say, hey, I just want to just be free and starving artist. I mean, I guess I'm curious, like what drew you in that moment to just say, I'd rather not go the academic route. I just want to, I don't know if I'm saying this right, to do it the hard way, to do the starving artist route. Did you see this just as being I guess a more creative and dramatic approach to entering the field?
It was
Or
so dramatic, right? That was so dramatic. What happened? I did go to like I said, the Art Institute. I got a scholarship for their summer program, and I had gone, and that was my first like real foray into the art scene.
mm-hmm,
And so, meeting a lot of people I was not used to coming in contact with on the South Side of Chicago in my African American community, our middle class community, and what we were doing. These kids were very like bold and very outspoken and very artsy. And I think at that time that was like my first meeting of people who were outwardly saying I'm out and I'm gay. um Kids who they were smoking. They weren't like the kids at in my school who were like, if they were sneaking and smoking, they were outwardly like, they're buying cigarettes and they're so grown acting and they're just doing what they want to do. And um it was just it just seemed like they were so self-assured, and I'm making this decision. And that was my first time meeting people who were like that. And I was like, well, shoot, I can make a decision too. I don't have to do it like that. I'm about to do it like this. I've got
mm-hmm.
my little Boy George outfit on. And I mean, I love me some Culture Club, love Boy George. Got my whole makeup thing going, my art portfolio. I was in a whole vibe. I was in a whole vibe. And I was just like, I'm just going to do this. But again, I had never had an experience being homeless or starving or like selling artwork to the point where I thought, like, should I just get out here and start like putting work out here on the streets? None of that. But when I was going to school, there were artists, former students of the Art Institute or others who were
Mm-hmm.
out there selling their artwork right there on the street. People will sit there and they paint
Right.
you. They'll, at the Taste of Chicago, as you remember, or Chicago Fest, if that's what you remember. People would sit there and draw you for a couple bucks or whatever. So that really, once I was down at school, it was like, I didn't realize how maybe sheltered we were.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing that, I was like, oh man, I've got options.
So I mean,
And
I
then I
guess
started to explore those options, and I realized those were not the options I
right.
wanted.
Well, I mean, I guess to a certain point, it wasn't a bad thing per se that you were looking to just sort of open up personality wise and just see what the world had to offer. It was, I think a lot of us go through that experience, you know, particularly like you said, if you come from a sheltered or a protective background where, you know, everything is sort of kind of fixed in a certain kind of way. And then you get that first breath of freedom, you know, being out on your own. And it does, it can excite you, it can overwhelm you. And in some cases it can get you caught up if you're not careful. But you know, I think that was just what it was like for you, and I don't think it was a bad thing. And I guess in your mom, she probably was thinking, she probably was figuring she's not going to be out there that long. I'm gonna let her have a little taste of this, and then you know she'll come back in, you know, and perhaps revisit the idea of going to school. So when you did go to school, was it an easy transition to get back into the normal academic mode, or did you find yourself still craving more of that expressiveness and wanting to just, I don't know, you know, be, you know, find out who Tracy really was and what she was all about and just trying new things? What was that experience like for you?
Um, yeah, I think I still was kind of in that mode because coming up, as you might recall, at least things with me, and I'm guessing a lot of things with you as well. The way our backgrounds are very similar. Everything was very controlled as far as activities. This is what you're going
Mm-hmm.
to do. This is where you're going to go. This is who you're going to see. So all of that was very organized. And then going off to school in North Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina, again, you don't have your parents with you. I don't have my mother or father or sisters there to say, this is what you need to be doing and this is where you got to go. So, like a lot of people, I'm like, first I'm going to take an 8 o'clock class. Ha ha ha. Didn't work out as well. Wasn't getting up like I was supposed to. But also, I would say for me,
Mm-hmm.
being at a HBCU, being in the South with all these beautiful Black people,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I went nuts as far as just, it was so much fun. It was like so much fun, and it was always warm. And, you know, these were, I guess, affluent enough students. Everybody has a car and everybody has money and they're doing this. Like it was college, but you're away from your parents. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I was gone. Like I was going to school, but I was like doing this, that, and the third. I would say it took, actually, I pledged AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Um, and at that time, that was like my third year of school. And my mother was like, look, I'm not paying for that. I'm barely paying for this school. And you're in school, you're doing all kinds of, partying and having fun. You're going to class a little. I'm not paying for that. And your grades better not fall and all this stuff. And I wanted to pledge so bad. And she was like, and I'm not even going to pay for it. My dad was like, I'm not paying for it. And I was like, man, I better do my absolute best work this semester because I don't want to hear them say, told you shouldn't have pledged. You need to be, studying in school and stuff. I think I got like a 4.0 that particular semester because I really did not want to hear anybody say, see, told you not to pledge. And that's why I didn't give you
Mm-hmm.
the money to do it. And that's why I didn't, do all this other stuff. I was like, man, I'm going to show them. Um, but I still didn't really, like, even after that, the grades were pretty good. I really, really didn't um, start to take things absolutely serious until I end up having a child on my own. Well, I won't say on my own. I won't say it wasn't on my own. I had family, friends, and his father, so it wasn't on my own. Let me not say that. Um, but I was in school just living the life, no restraints. I'm thinking I'm thebomb.com. You know what I'm saying? I'm like having the best time. I got some money in my pocket. I had a little job at the movie theater. And everything was just going, going, going. And, at that point, I hadn't had any like horrible consequences to anything I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was, everything in life had been nice enough. I had my little stuff, but nothing bad. And then I had my then I was pregnant with my son, and I end up leaving St. Augustine's and coming back home to Chicago. And I'm like, what in the world am I doing? What I what's going on? I gotta like let me just straighten up my act. I'm like, I'm gonna be somebody's mom. I need to straighten up my act. And then
Mm.
that's when I think I really pulled things really together and got serious.
Okay. Okay. So you end up, so we go from I want to be a starving artist to I go to college. I'm almost through. Then motherhood enters into the scene.
Almost through. I was planning on how I was gonna walk across the stage in them heels being pregnant. No, sir. No, sir. It
No,
did not
sir.
happen like that.
Mm-mm.
No, sir.
And so now you're back home at that time, being a mom. Of course, you're still young, and just I know you said that your mindset was, "Hey, I got to be more responsible." What was that? What was that challenge like? Just adjusting to motherhood. I mean, I'm sure you probably always thought of someday being a mom, but now this happens a little bit sooner than you anticipated. What was just that? What was that journey like for you? Just kind of transitioning into that, and just really just trying to figure it all out and understand what it took time wise, commitment wise, maturity wise, and the like, things you had to sacrifice as a result of now having another, mouth to feed and person to take care of, a little person who could is totally dependent upon you. What was that? What was that like?
Well, it did come as it was jarring. It definitely was jarring because even when I was pregnant, like I was still going on trips with the family. We went over to Spain. We traveled in Europe and Africa, and like so, I'm still getting the goods, right? So of course, then once I actually have my son, that's when everything really was like, oh no, I'm not giving this to you, like my parents. This goes to your son. Everything was about him. And I was like, man, this is not what I envisioned for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
this is not what I envisioned for my life and or my children or anything. And I know that my parents, my mother and father, did not necessarily raise me to, as far as I was concerned, you know, looking back, to be so selfish, to be so self-centered, like to be that selfish and like, shoot, I'm still getting this. I'm still going to, do whatever I want to do. And so then I was like, okay, I need to get finish my education.
Mm-hmm.
I need to work. And if I still find myself wanting a certain lifestyle or a certain kind of a family dynamic, then I'm going to have to work at it. I'm going to have to work at it. I'm going to have to do this. And I also thought I am going to need some serious help, and not just the help of my parents. That was a time when I was like, God, I need your help because I've had my parental help and it's not, they're carrying me still. You know what I'm saying? They didn't necessarily like they're not gonna have me fail and the grandchild fail and all this stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
my sisters, uh, or anybody. And so, but it wasn't it. I was at home. I was like, I can't keep going like this. I just cannot keep going like this because I felt like, first of all, I'm an adult now and I want to do things I want to do. And if I continue to let people help me, they're going to help me the way they want to help me, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily what I need or want. They're going to help me, and that's how people do. I'll help you, but I'm going to help you the way I want to help you. This is what I think you need. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, and I'm somebody's mother and I need to teach them and I got to get it together. And so I did pray really hard. I was like, I don't know what is going on, but I need some help. And like I prayed so often, so hard, and so often, all the time. Every time anything happened, I was praying because I was like, God, I just need your help. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. People are telling me, but I still didn't feel like I knew what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, when people say prayer helps, it really does, because then it does calm you a bit and say, well, you'll just do it. Just keep doing, and we're gonna get through this together. And so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's what happened.
And and I guess when you think about it in retrospect, I know at the time, it may have seemed unfair. It may seem like my fun is being taken away. What am I gonna do and all of that? But that's the thing about God. He allows you sometimes in order to bring you near to Him. Sometimes He has to allow us to go through some stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
finding myself. Kind of being out there and just exploring life, doing it my way and how I want to do it, just thinking of me, me, me. Then all of a sudden, here it enters, motherhood, and now and you're still struggling in the beginning with the me versus my son, but knowing what was the right thing to do, but still being torn because you're still wanting to again experience and enjoy life for yourself. And so eventually it comes to a point where you're just like, okay, I have to at some point I have to kind of give in, if you will. I have to surrender, and in this case, who better to surrender to, but to God, and to say, hey, I'm coming to you. I need help, and you did that by way of prayer, and as you stated, you were praying, without ceasing. Just everything. It wasn't whether it was big, small, or somewhere in between. I'm just praying. I'm just praying. I'm just asking God to guide me, to navigate me, to do what I need to do to be a better, not just a better mother, but to just to be a better you, and just to be able to find what is your ultimate calling in life that you're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do. And I think just by virtue of what you started out the show with, 27 years educating, teaching young people about art, and just the very thing that had your mind, wanting to explore and see and envision new and wonderful and exciting things. You're doing that same. It's almost like your life full circle is coming back in your calling of teaching, and inspiring young people. So it all had to happen, to kind of bring it around to this point. And God doesn't make mistakes, and this is a perfect example where again he's undefeated once again, where it looked difficult. It may have even looked impossible sometimes. Like, how am I going to make it through? But He showed up at just the right time and just the right way to allow you to become who you've become, the who's who, that you have become. Not only career wise, but just again as an individual, just making her mark on this world, and doing it in your own way, through your calling of artistic and creative expression. So I think that's a powerful story that you have there, and again, it's a testament to your growth and who you are as an individual. And again, it was necessary. It was a part of our journey, and this is what we're capturing here. This was your blessings in the streets moment of kind of going through all of these challenges and these trials and tribulations. So with that said, when we talk about just adversities in general, um, I know you mentioned prayer, but I'm curious to know, aside from prayer, or or inclusive of prayer, when you do find yourself faced with difficult moments, what is it that you tend to, go through process wise? Adversity just knocked on your door today. You got this thing in front of you that you have to deal with. What does Tracy like to do to go through to process that challenging moment? What works for you to kind of help you keep your head straight, keep focused, but be able to work through whatever that challenge is?
Um, I would say the one of the first things I usually think about, I will use like with the kids at school. I'll use an example. Sometimes you get a difficult situation with a student, or
Mm-hmm.
even with the parent, teacher, anything like that. I would say the very first thing, if it's a student, I always think about my son and my daughter. If it's a boy, I think about my son. If it's a girl, I think about my daughter. And I always think, how would I want someone to approach my child?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that makes it easier for me to try and understand whatever difficulties we're having, and then try to find a solution. I try to put myself in situations and other people's situations as well. You know, why is this person seemingly having difficult with me? Am I coming off in a certain way? Is this something I'm doing that If they did it to me, I wouldn't like it. Or even when it's like grant writing, I try and say, okay, now if I'm reading this, if somebody is applying to this and I'm reading this, what do I want to know or what do I want to hear? So my biggest way to solve a situation and a problem, a lot of times, I try to put myself in a situation where either I'm the person who somebody brought the problem to, or um, how would I want somebody to treat me or somebody I loved. And even when now my children, they're grown, they're adults now, young adults. But even when they come to me with a situation or issue, and I use my niece and nephew as well, I think about myself at their age. I think about some of the things I know about myself, some of the things I know about other people. And then I can have a little more grace. I can try to say, it's really not that bad. Let's think about this. Let's get it together. I'm just always thinking it's really not that bad. It's really not as bad as you think. Let's lay all the cards on the table and then let's work our way through it. And that usually helps me. Even if it doesn't turn out the way I immediately want it to turn out, I'm always thinking, but it's okay. It's okay. This is going to work out. It's got to work out. Why wouldn't it work out? I've done all the stuff to make it work out. So it will work out one way or the other, even if it's a way that I don't know is going to happen yet.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. I'm curious. With your love for art, um, does that play a part in your dealing with challenging times or healing just in general? Like, do you when you're frustrated, when you're going through situations, do you ever get out the pen or paintbrush and just start to draw something, or do you escape out to some art gallery and just take it all in? Is that play any role with what you do to kind of help you
I
soothe and
often do that. I often do that. I often go to the Art Institute of Chicago. I'm a member. The DuSable Museum. I'm a
mm-hmm.
member. And I do go look at art. They have membership clubs inside of those museums. I go sit down sometimes just to even sit, not even go look at the artwork. Um, in front of me, you can't see it, but in front of me, I'm looking at paint right now. Paint's all in front of me, paint brushes. This is in this particular room. Paper. I have scissors. I'm constantly cutting things. I could be watching TV, but it's a way for me to relax.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Painting, creating. Sometimes I'm cutting up clothes, and putting them, like whether I wear them or not. All that. Yes, art is a really big part for me. Even my appearance. A lot of times I change my appearance, and people often say, "You know what? You really change up your styles. I see you look like this, and you never keep this for so long." But it's a way to relieve stress for me. It's a way to express myself, but definitely relieve stress and concentrate on something else and like, oh, be creative or, have something fun to talk about with other people. I'm very aware of myself. And so, yeah, art is life for me. Art is life for me.
Got you, got you. And what you just said about the changing up of looks, like again, I've seen you over the years. I've seen many pictures that you've posted and things of that nature, and that is absolutely true. If people aren't paying attention to that, is you're really good at just mixing it up, and it's not a strange or weird thing. It's just today this is this version of Tracy, and then next week it might be this version, and next month it might be this version.
Exactly.
You keep it fresh and interesting, and I mean that's cool because everybody can't do that. Everybody doesn't process like that, but you were able to not only do it, but you're able to pull it off. So nobody's looking at your pictures. Anybody look at your pictures got eyesight. They'll be like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that too. It's just you keep it interesting, you keep it fresh. So that just speaks again to who you are and your overall creativity. So, if you had a chance to talk to the younger Tracy, the Tracy who was once the desiring to be the starving artist, the Tracy who maybe you felt like maybe thought a little bit more of herself than other people, what would you say to her or somebody like her who was going through some of those same challenges and just trying to figure it all out, figure life out, what would your words of wisdom or encouragement be to young Tracy or somebody like her?
I would definitely say if you want to do that, like my mother said to me, then do it. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say commit to it and make it really happen. Um, I think it's a disservice to anybody, to yourself, when you kind of think of something and then talk yourself out of whatever, or say you're going to do something and then put no effort into doing it. Sit
Mm-hmm.
back and wait for divine intervention, I guess, just for it to happen. But I would definitely say if that's what you're going to do, if that's truly what you want to do, make a plan and then do it. But don't sit at home and wait for it to happen, or wonder why other people are not helping you out or doing things for you. Whatever you say you want to do, you can really honestly do anything you put your mind to. Anything, you know. But you do have to have a plan. You do have to, um, pray about it, put things in order, and then you make it happen. You have to put effort for, into anything, and it can be successful. All things are possible. All things, you can have success. That's not something that is out of our reach. If you're praying about something, you really just having a conversation about to God of like, I need you to steer me of how I'm going to get this done. And if you're sincere, you can get it together, but you can't just like, yeah, tell me what to do, Lord. Oh, you
Mm-hmm.
didn't tell me yes, I mean today, so I'm going on doing this, or I'm going to change that. If you're for real and steadfast, it can be done. And I would tell myself that make a decision and stick with it. And then if you need to pivot a little bit, you can, but really think it out as much as you can. What do you want to gain from what you want to do? What do you hope will happen? You know, how do you see it happening down the line 5 years from now? This thing that you said you wanted to do. Okay, if that's the case, then you can get it done. Because I really feel like when we were in that class, in art class back at Beasley. That's something that did stay on my mind. I'm like, I really like art, but this teacher is not giving me what I need, because I think I could do better than this. I really feel like I can do better than this, or I want to do more than this. And I could, so that's something that actually stayed in my mind. And I thought about it. I didn't know that I was manifesting something down the line. But that is something I believe now that I plan for, because when it hit me, I'm like, mm-mm. This is a good class, but this is not it
Mm.
for me.
I love that. I love that. Just your foresight from back then, and just again the advisement that you just said, what you would give to your younger self. Being committed, going all in, being willing to take risk. I mean, it may not play out the way that you thought it would be, but that's okay. If you need to pivot, if you need to go a different direction, that's fine. But just stay committed. Don't be that person who later on in life, as you get in the older age, you're sitting back, oh, I wish I would have done this. I regret I didn't try that. When all you had to do was just go out there and just, put it all on the line and just let God work it through however that's supposed to play out. So I think those words of encouragement that you shared are very very necessary, very powerful, and I think somebody's gonna be blessed by the stories that you've shared today, and just because I think a lot of people go through what you've spoken to, but everybody doesn't know how to navigate that thing. People get stuck. People get they allow other people to dictate for them what their lives are going to be. And while other people may have good intentions in some instances, it's ultimately your life to live. You have to make a decision. What do you think is best for you? And of course, like you said, do it
Yes,
do it in its proper order. Obviously, seek God for that guidance and direction. But just say, hey, what am I wanting out of this? It doesn't matter if it meets everybody's
exactly.
approval. If they think it's a good idea, they may want me to be a doctor or lawyer. Well, I don't want to be that. I want to be art teacher. And I want to be this person. I want to be that person. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it is a bad thing when you have something in you that's craving, that's driving you, and then you just won't take advantage of it. You won't, tap into it to see where it takes you. And you didn't allow that opportunity to get away from you. And I think that that's probably already in the 27 years that you've been teaching. I'm sure that's resonated in other students. Some of the same vibe that you got when you were young, listening to art teachers and how it was going and everything. You've just provided a better experience for them to perhaps make better and sound decisions as to how they want to utilize art in their respective lives, whether it's career wise, whether it's therapeutic or what have you. So that's a great story you have to share, Tracy. So before I let you go, I do want to have an opportunity to just kind of love on you, affirm you, acknowledge anything that you might have going on right now. Do you have any? If you have any special projects, any upcoming activities, any milestones that have happened recently that you'd like to share with the audience that we can celebrate and love on you on, please do share that at this time.
Um, well, I did have a milestone like this past year. I was awarded, nominated, and then awarded into the who's who of America. Who's who? Yeah, who's who and Marquise who's who in America, which was exciting. It's been very exciting, and I've been happy about that. It's brought me some, I think, well deserved recognition, but it did boost my confidence as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up having us. They celebrated me at school for it as well when they found out, and I was totally surprised. I didn't realize how many people thought so highly of me, and that was, very affirming, and I felt great about it. And even more so than the recognition of the award, and they sent the plaque and everything, the fact that so many people told me they thought, "Oh, about time," or "You deserve it," or whatever, that made me feel awesome. Uh, so that happened, and also there's an artist that I work with. She's a master weaver, and recently she asked me to um, do a photo shoot of some artwork that she made, some wearable artwork. One was a crown, a big pink crown that she made out of hair, and
Hmm.
it was made especially for me. I commissioned the work, and then she asked me, could she use it for a show that's going to be traveling in the United States? And a dress made of hair. It's red and it's made of braiding hair. It's like Yaki or Kankalan or whatever they sell out of the beauty
Mm-hmm.
supply store. And I thought it was so like interesting and fantastic, and I commissioned that piece of work as well. And I actually wore it to
Hmm.
an event. It is extremely heavy. It's extremely heavy. I didn't even realize how heavy this art was going to be to wear at an event, but I wore it because I had it on and I wanted everybody to say, "Ooh, look at this work." That's,
Right, right.
me. That's just me. So I wore it, but it was heavy. So it was a lot of fun though, and we just did a photo shoot. So I had to go, um, and it was really warm in this photo shoot, and it was just hot. Actually, it wasn't even warm, it was hot. And if you see some of the pictures on my Instagram, you'll see some of the steam coming up. This lady is sitting there fanning herself because the photographer is taking pictures and she's been putting the pieces on my head. But I'm excited to see that in print. I'm excited to see it for her shows, and I'm ready for her to go on the road because I want to meet her at one of her shows, maybe in New York or in like maybe Missouri, because she goes like all around different places.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see something that I commissioned that is made especially for me in an art gallery. That is like a bucket list thing for me, like, you know, from the Tracy Netter collection. And
There
it's
we go.
something that I could say I actually wore and is now on, traveling around. I love, to be involved in art just that much. So that is like super exciting to me.
That is awesome. That is awesome, man. Congratulations again to you, and and your recognitions that you've gotten and the commissions. I mean, that's awesome, man. We're gonna speak into existence the day we see the Tracy Netter collections in art galleries around the
I
world, and
know.
we're not gonna wish or hope that happen. We're just gonna speak it into existence right now. That's gonna be the crown jewel of your career and your whole
Oh my
aspiration in the
gosh.
art. And I look forward to seeing that the day that you reach out and say, "Hey, remember we talked about that? It's happening, and this
Remember,
is where
I'm
it's at.
like, let me send you
Come
this
on out."
magazine, Joseph, for this
Yeah,
book.
there you
It's in
go.
there. My name is in there, but that's my collection.
That's right. And even when you talk about a book, having had a chance to write a book, I'm big in understanding now that everybody has a story to tell. So I even see, perhaps a Tracy Netter book with some of your original artworks that you have beautiful pictures. I'm sure you've done amazing photos that I haven't seen or others haven't seen. There's a book that needs to be coming out with your name on the front and some of your
I'm gonna leave the
artwork
books
in
to
it.
you, Joseph. You're
You
actually
know,
a really, you've always been extremely smart, great writer. You've always been a really great student, and you know that. So I'm gonna leave that to you.
well, hey, you don't have to write a whole bunch to put beautiful pictures and artwork that you've
I'm about to say
done.
it'll be a picture
So
book. If it's mine, it's just gonna be pictures.
hey, but like they say, pictures speak, can speak 1,000 words. So I'm sure you have some great works out there that need to be put on display and shared with the world. So we're gonna speak that into existence too. Just putting that out there for you. So, but again, we celebrate you, we applaud you, we love on you. Congratulations for all you do. I'm sure it was very well deserved. I know you're who you I again, I can speak to this because I know you the person. This is not just some random person I'm interviewing. I don't know who you are and what you're made of. So I know that you were every bit of deserving of that award and the acknowledgments, and just to know that you'll go down as being one of those teachers that kids, you ask them, years and decades later, who was your favorite teacher? Your name is going to come out of some kids' mouths about
Ah,
being that favorite teacher. And that's just a testament to who you are. I mean, and that's a wonderful accomplishment, and it just speaks volumes to Tracy the person, and the God giving talents and gifts that are just been manifested in you. So great work, great work. Keep doing it. Don't stop, like you said. You still scratching the surface. So keep on knocking it out the park. Keep doing your thing. So with that said,
thank you.
Tracy, it has been a pleasure as always. Catching up with you. It's been a while since we had a chance to talk and me to physically see you. So it's a pleasure as always. And for our listeners of today's show, if you have enjoyed the content of what you've heard today, please subscribe, please like, please comment, please share. This is what we're all about here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, is sharing our journey, sharing our stories, hoping to empower and encourage, letting you know that even in the midst of trials and tribulations and unexpected circumstances, that doesn't have to be the end of your story. There's still more to tell. There's still more to do. If there wasn't, you wouldn't be here today to be able to share it. And so, I appreciate any time you with you coming on board to share what you shared, and you're always welcome back to being on here because I know that there's still more for you to tell. We could talk for hours about you and your life and things that you've gone through and accomplished, but I appreciate just you sharing the snippet that you did. Somebody's going to be blessed by
Of
it. I know
course.
I've been blessed by it, and just gives me another layer of respect for you that I already had and appreciation for who you are as a person. So I thank you for that. So here
Oh,
at the
thank you,
Bless.
Joseph.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here at the Blessings in the Street podcast, always remember that this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and where your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, God bless. Take care of yourselves and keep fighting the good fight. Keep being committed. Stay pushing and persevering forward, and let God reveal to you what your calling is in life, and use you in the way that He designed for you to be. Take care of yourselves.